vocês estão dançando, a felicidade, nossa, como vocês estão felizes, eita, aí, ó, direita, isso, olha aí como vocês estão dançando, tudo bem, direto que vocês que sabem dançar pra aprender, né? Karatê, mas eu só fico no THC, a heroína é o estopim, vale muito mais que ouro e marfim, doendo na jornada, não se cura, não se paga a emoção que te dá, ainda bem que eu vi.
Should you leave your old life behind and move to Brazil in 2026? Let's see if sun, sand, beaches, caipirinhas, and football is enough. Disclaimer. It's important to note that these are my opinions specifically about São Paulo. They may or may not apply to other parts of Brazil. Here in São Paulo, there are many social events scattered throughout the week where you can connect with other foreigners and of course Brazilians who are encouraged to speak English. So even if you don't speak Portuguese, you can still make friends. However, with this constant stimulation, noise, crowds, and lack of quiet time, I would rate it as the hardest city where I have lived to stay concentrated. The noise from noisy motorbikes, trucks, old, unroadworthy cars, and emergency vehicle sirens is unreal. When coupled with random fireworks being set off before, during, and after football games, or sometimes for completely random reasons, along with loud nightlife and shows, it has probably made me at least partially deaf during my time living here. I have also never heard so many people slamming doors in condominium life. Brazilian culture or something else? Condominiums are convenient. It's almost a one-stop shop for everything. In the building where I live currently, there is a gym, 2 convenience stores, a pool, and even a tennis court to enjoy. They are also incredibly secure with high controlled access. Unfortunately, convenience has its downside though. The gym and pools get incredibly crowded during peak times, and condominiums often have little to no privacy. You constantly hear your neighbors who also know what you're up to, and you really need luck regarding your upstairs neighbor. They can have a direct impact on your ability to work from home and even rest at the end of the day or early in the morning, because Brazilian apartment complexes are not known for having good acoustic insulation. There are many opportunities to escape your apartment, or even the city of São Paulo itself, if you wish, as São Paulo has direct flight connections to nearly every state capital in Brazil, along with a wide range of international destinations. It is known as the New York of the Southern Hemisphere for a reason. The city is alive 24/7 with shopping malls open until generous hours like 10 o'clock at night and delivery services operating around the clock. I consider food to generally be healthier here than in many Western countries, which is another bonus. However, if you want to have an unhealthy option, many of your favorite foreign options like Taco Bell, KFC, Pizza Hut, Burger King, McDonald's, and even Outback Steakhouse, which is my personal favorite, are available for you to eat at your convenience and leisure. Sao Paulo also has a rich Japanese and Italian culture and reportedly consumes around 15,000 pieces of sushi per hour and 1 million pizzas per day. Healthcare here is free, even for foreigners under the SUS healthcare system. This is great if you get sick during your trip here, but if you're living here permanently, I would strongly suggest getting a private healthcare plan. It should also be noted that it can be quite difficult as a foreigner to gain access to banking systems in Brazil. Generally, you will need to be working for a foreign company or have a long-term visa before banks will seriously consider opening accounts for you. These days, it is still difficult to rely entirely on foreign credit cards to withdraw money and pay accounts, although you can generally pay for things like restaurants and public transport. For sporting events, concerts, and domestic flight discounts within Brazil, you will also need a CPF, which is essentially a Brazilian tax identification number. I plan to cover these more complex topics in greater detail in a future video series here on the channel. I consider the majority of Brazilians to be friendly people, and although English ability may not be as strong as in other expat destinations like the Philippines or Thailand, that should not stop you from building friendships with Brazilians who do speak some English. If you are prepared to make some sacrifices and set aside time to learn at least some Portuguese, you will likely make more meaningful friendships and enjoy a better overall living experience here. You also need to accept that there are obvious cultural differences here in Brazil, and not everyone will share the same attitudes, values, or expectations that you might be used to in your home country. In general, Brazilians are flexible when it comes to making plans. People may not always arrive exactly when you expect them to, so it is often best to adjust your expectations and give people a wider time window. The same can also be said about customer service from Brazilian companies. The more I have requested services, dealt with companies, or purchased products here, the more situations I have encountered where I needed to make complaints or even go to consumer protection services or the small claims court just to be treated fairly or compensated for losses suffered. The weather here, however, is unbelievably good. Even during June, which is considered winter in Brazil, temperatures in São Paulo can still be significantly warmer than winter back home in my country. Aside from the occasional cold snap, the climate here allows for a much more outdoor-orientated lifestyle, and heavy winter wardrobes become almost unnecessary. That said, during rainy season from around November to March, you also need to plan your day around avoiding the mid-afternoon deluges, because when the rain arrives in São Paulo, it absolutely arrives. One serious downside to life here in Brazil is personal security. It is generally not recommended to openly use your phone or display expensive electronics or obvious signs of wealth in public, especially in São Paulo. Fortunately, I have never personally been robbed, but I know many people, including neighbors, who have been. Living with that constant awareness over the years definitely changes you, and probably not for the better. I am far less trusting and much more skeptical of strangers now than I was before moving here. When it comes to deciding whether Brazil is a place where you should move permanently in 2026, the answer probably depends on multiple factors. How connected or disconnected you are from your family and home country matters a lot, as does your ability to build independence and adapt to a very different culture and lifestyle. If you're willing to take the time to learn the language, have some degree of financial independence, can invest enough to obtain legal residency, and are able to handle the intensity of life and culture here, then Brazil might just be the place for you. If the challenges I mentioned above are not major impediments for you, then the culture shock and struggles that inevitably come with living in this football-mad country may ultimately be outweighed by the financial opportunities, investment potential, and personal growth that you can experience here. Brazil is not an easy country to live in, but for the right type of person, it can absolutely be a positive, life-changing one.